What's up, everybody? This is Patrick from wpbuilderhelper, and in today's episode, we're answering one of the questions that you guys have been asking for quite some time, and everybody's asked it in some way or form. That is, what happens with your page builder when you turn it off? What happens with Gutenberg when you turn it off? Does it leave behind trash? Is it clean? Does it still work? What happens? We don't know. But we're about to find out because I'm testing all of the Gutenberg plugins, testing all the page builder plugins, and we're going to give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down depending on whether they take and actually work after being disabled or what type of trash they leave behind. All right, so let's get started. So before we start this test, I wanted to put a little bit of disclaimer on this. I'm well aware that most likely your Gutenberg content will most likely still show up even after you deactivate it, whereas page builders will not. So keep that in mind. Page builders pretty much, when you deactivate them, the content goes away. That's usually how it works. There are some random cases, which we're going to talk about as we go through this video, where we're talking about certain page builders that don't leave behind any trash. And when you deactivate them, the content still stays there. But we'll talk about why that is and maybe why it doesn't work for other ones and things like that. But for the most part, I just wanted to put this disclaimer in before we got to the testing and kind of went through and kind of showed you what we did. So we're going to be using one standard website. It's got all these page builders installed. And then we're going to go through, activate them one by one. I'm going to speed all of that up. And I'm basically going to have, an X or a check if it works. All right. See you guys shortly. Hey guys, here we are inside. So I wanted to take you through just a few of these of how I'm actually building the pages for these, just so you could see what's going on. So typically, if we go to the back end, I've got all of these pages set up, and I've added some as plugins because some are plugins, and most of them are plugins, but then some of them are themes. So, for instance, in Brix's case or Divi's case, that's a theme. Also added in PicoStrap for live canvas, just because I wanted to be on a fair playground. I don't know that PicoStrap does anything different, but we're going to see what happens when we turn all these off and what kind of trash, like I said, that they leave behind, just so we could explore what happens when you turn one of these things off. So I figured we'll start off with the Gutenberg stuff, and then we'll move on from there. So let's start off with GetWid. And I've done these guys before. I'm going to just use whatever's in their template library. So in this case, if they have something that's in here, I'm just going to grab that because it just makes it so much easier to see if the stuff actually deactivates or if it doesn't deactivate or whatever the case is. It's just nice that you can kind of go in here and you can choose some of these things. And that's what we're going to do is we're just going to keep on inserting templates. And like I said, just see like what is left behind whenever we're done. So we're going to save this page. And I'm going to do this for all of them, but I'm not going to walk you through all of them because that would be really, really boring. And I don't want to do that. So if we go and we preview this in a new tab, you should see that this is the page that we have. So this is the basic header. You can ignore that because that's actually coming from Blocksy. And then this is our page right here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to go into our plugins and we're going to deactivate it. And then we're going to see what happens on the front end after we refresh this. And you can see just right off the bat that let's try that again. Let's go in the GetWid page and let's actually view it. But you could see right off the bat, it lost like all of its settings and moved to the side. Like all of its, I guess it's width, you would call it, it lost all of that for some strange reason. That's really, really weird. I'm wondering if that's based on the fact that this page it automatically assigns a width to it, and so it just takes the width of whatever the page is. That's most likely the case, but as you can see, the data technically, which would be the pictures, the headers, the text, even though it doesn't look pretty, is still technically here. You did lose some CSS from turning it off. So as we can see here, it doesn't leave anything behind, but it's not exactly formatted correctly. As a matter of fact, this is completely formatted off. So you lose some CSS formatting. So getwid is basically a fail if you're going to do that. So now I'm going to move on through and I'll skip to the next one. All right, so here's our stackable page that we used, which you can see right here is a basic page. And we're going to go into appearance, plugins, I should say, and we're going to deactivate. Skip and deactivate. Then we're going to go back to this page. Let's load it again. And you can see, whoa, that is weird. The image changed. Whoa. Yeah, that's a big difference. That's a huge difference. So once again, I'm not shocked that any of this is happening. It's par for the course. When you take away a plugin, you lose the CSS that's with that plugin in most cases, and in this case, it's defaulting to the basic of Bloxy, and it's using the default Steam settings here to basically style all of this. But some of it is just, I don't know why the picture changed. That's a new one. So for stackable, that's a fail. So far, nobody's managed to keep their styles even once you deactivate. Let's move on. All right, so next up on the list is Cadence. And as you can see here, I've got a basic Cadence page. And I've even got a form in this one. They had some form integration because that comes basic with Cadence. So let's go into our plugins and let's deactivate Cadence and let's see. I'm really curious as to what happens with this one. So yeah, you can see we even lose the background images. We lose basically everything, which is interesting to say the least. The colors are defaulting to, once again, whatever Bloxy was set to, but everything else just kind of defaults, which, once again, I'm not shocked. This is par for the course. As you turn things off, you're going to have stuff that's left behind. So you got to be prepared for that whenever you're doing this. I mean, sadly, one of the only ways that you're going to be able to do it is to take and go back and recreate the content. So let's start moving on to the page builders. All right, so here we have Live Canvas. This one I have to say I'm most interested in because it's the first page builder on the list that I decided to choose. But I also have a sneaking suspicion that I think I had heard something at one point in time that when you turn this off, it still works to some extent. So let's see what happens when we... Wow. Okay. So not going to lie, you do lose the column structure, but the features stay exactly like what they're set up to do. So you lose the column structure. That's a little bit sad. But still, this doesn't break nearly as bad as some of the other stuff we've tested. I'm actually impressed. This is pretty cool. I mean, if you were going to pick one, so far, this leaves behind nothing. I mean, all your stuff is still there. There's no shortcodes, there's no nothing. I'm interested to see what happens with the rest of them as we move forward. So let's keep going. Let's keep diving deeper. So the next one I chose on the list was Beaver Builder, and Beaver Builder put together this page pretty quickly. So let's go in and do what we always do. Turn off the plugin. I'm sure you're tired of hearing that by now. An important note, I am using the light versions of most of these plugins, but wow. Okay, so that completely, it does leave the content though. So that's pretty important from a standpoint that if you're wondering if it leaves the content, like it does actually degrade pretty well. Like that's pretty impressive for a builder. I'm not sure some of the other builders are going to fare as well as this. it does degrade well because it looks like if I were to go edit this page, that's one thing we haven't seen. I did not try this with the other page builder live canvas, and I should have, but right now I think it degrades into HTML because it's saying your site doesn't support this layout. It'll convert it to and keep as HTML. So if we keep it as HTML, yeah, it just turns everything into HTML, which is pretty cool. I mean, that's not too bad. The fact that that's what, at least you have the content that's left. You don't have to do anything else. So let's move on to our next, which is bricks. All right, so here we are inside of our bricks page. It took me a while to realize that the first version of bricks that I tried was actually an older version. So I needed to go back and update it, but it ended up working out. So now we're going to go in and we're going to deactivate bricks. Note that because bricks is a theme, I fully expect that when we activate Bloxy that everything is going to break. So let's go in and let's reset this. And yep, everything breaks. So the good thing is nothing is left behind. You get a complete blank page. The bad news is all of your data is gone with bricks. That's not good. So hopefully that'll save you some time in the future. Next up is our buddies Brizzy. So here's the Brizzy page. As you can see, actually, I think I loaded the wrong one. Let me go in and actually load the page so you can see it, just to make sure that I am not on the Brizzy page itself. Okay. So I see what I did there. I screwed up and I didn't save the page. So let's go in and let's add this real fast. Sorry about that. That would be my mistake. I didn't click that beautiful update button that you need to click if you're going to take and do that with a page. So now if we go back and we check out and we view our Brizzy page, it should actually load correctly. Yes, like it's supposed to. Okay. So once again with Brizzy, Brizzy at least doesn't use a theme like Bloxy did. So I'm not sure what's going to happen as soon as you disable it. I have a feeling I that I know, but I'm not sure. So yeah, okay. So Brizzy deactivates, and as a matter of fact, it deactivates all the images too. All the icons get really huge. So yeah, this page becomes unusable. It looks like it loses like everything, even the typical formatting that you would get, it loses like all of it. Granted, these are Brizzy images, so they're Brizzy SVGs. So if you want to keep those, if you use in one of their templates, I would recommend that you move to something else or you try and recreate those SVGs unless you can get them or do something else. So let's move on down the line. So next up on the list was Elementor. I wanted to mention something about this specific one that ticked me off above all the other ones so far in this category. And it's a minor thing, but it annoys the living hell out of me. And that's that before I could even load this basic ass template, Elementor made me basically create an account, which I already had an account, but you have to link the account in order for it to take and give you basic templates. Why are you asking me for information for basic stuff? Like, why do you need that? I'm sure it's just marketing so that you can jam it down my throat, but that kind of crap is the reason why I hate investors and I hate the fact that they took VC money. I'm sorry, that's just annoying. Anyway, here's their page. Let's test it. Let's go back and find out what happens. I have a feeling it's going to do just like every other page and same exact feedback as every other thing. We go in here, we refresh it, and boom. Everything is broken and it's into one column. A good thing to note is that the content does stay. Some of the images don't. So if you're using a Elementor template, then this is probably not the thing for you. Also, if you want to give them your information and all the rest of them you don't need to give information to so far, it's probably not the template for you either. All right, so now we are going to test Oxygen. Obviously, Oxygen deactivates the theme, so I'm really interested to see what it leaves behind. So we're going to go into here. We're going to select our plugin because Oxygen is actually a plugin. And we'll go back. And I shouldn't have clicked off of this. That was my fault. And let's go in and click View. And as you can see, all your content is gone as soon as you deactivate Oxygen. So once again, kind of a lock-in effect there. Definitely not like some of the other page builders, but once you deactivate it, everything that you built with Oxygen is gone. So there you go. Okay, so next up is Divi, and with Divi, we ran into the same problem that we ran into with Elementor, where they force you to add in a key in your username. I mean, I guess that's on purpose, but when you have something that's free, I guess Divi's not free. There's no free version, so it makes sense. With Elementor, it pisses me off a little bit more just because there is a free version. Once again, Divi is a theme much like bricks, so I expect as soon as you bricks as soon as you switch, I think you're going to lose everything. But I'm not exactly 100% sure. So, wow. Okay, with Divi, guess what? The good news is you don't lose everything. The bad news is everything is turned into shortcodes, which means it's basically useless because none of this is going to help you get back your data. Not even the images. Uh, Everything is shortcodes. Everything is using this shortcode labeling. So I guess you can get some text back, but you're not going to get anything from there other than the basics. I mean, very, very basic stuff. So there you go with Divi. Let's move on to Zion Builder. Okay, and now here we are inside of Zion Builder. And from here, you can kind of see that we've got our page set up. It didn't let me grab any full pages because of the way that they do things. But for the most part, it was working out the way it needed to work out. They kind of limit you to the pro versions, which is fine. I don't mind that. I think that that's fair. You can use the smaller ones, but you can't use the pro versions, which are the full pages. Still, nothing is along the lines of Elementor and Divi where they force you to buy something. So let's see what happens when you turn it off. And when you turn it off, much like Oxygen and some of the other ones, you do lose your content. So as soon as you turn this off, there is nothing left behind. Everything is stuck within Zion Builder. So I'm going to leave my comments at the very end of this and we will go from there. So the question now comes in like, how do I feel about all of these and what am I thinking about all of these? I think most is par for the course. I'm not surprised that there's lock in with some of these. I'm not surprised that there's anything. If anything, the most annoying thing that I took away from all of this is the fact that you don't ever want to force your user to take and sign into anything for free designs. That's one thing that annoyed me with Elementor and Divi. Another thing annoyed me was the fact that sometimes you had to go and activate a license in order to get to access those designs, which that's fine too. I mean, I understand that nothing is really free, so it makes sense. I get it. I totally understand it. But at the same time, I mean, there could be better ways to deal with some of these things. And so for me, the way that it worked out, it worked out. It just happens to be that Gutenberg's a little bit cleaner. It does leave some things behind, but then, as you saw with certain other page builders, there were other page builders that also left the content behind. There were some that didn't leave the content behind. I guess at the end of the day, it shouldn't matter. As long as you take and you have that page builder activated, you can still pull off that content. But in worst case scenario, you will have to go back and reformat that content, which is not surprising because when you turn off a page builder, you turn off Gutenberg, you're losing the CSS that makes that content look good. And that's what people sometimes forget. They think that you could just turn it off, and as soon as you turn it off, nothing bad's going to happen. When in fact, yeah, there's going to be a lot of bad that happens. And in most cases, there's some cases where you have some page builders in general that will wipe out all your content as soon as you turn it off. So, I mean, it is what it is. I think I was most impressed by Live Canvas, which left behind very, very clean code, even though it wasn't at all, it wasn't in line or anything like that. It lost all of its guidance and its CSS. At the end of the day, it was the one that looked closest to what the original content looked like because you didn't lose any of the formatting. So if anything, I would say to the other page builders, you might want to take a look at that because that's something that's really interesting. Hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I will see you guys next time.